Hey class, this is Nick Sensky at Iowa State University, and this is part two of the tutorial about drawing sections orthographically. I'm going to pick up where we left off, which is looking at this model in Rhinoceros, just to get a clue as to what we're trying to achieve in terms of cutting a section through this pavilion. And I should have noted in the last video, I'm actually on the Windows side this time. You guys probably noticed that with the like toolbar on the bottom. I did that because to use Rhinoceros, which is going to be the modeler that we're going to work with in this class, I have to be in Windows. There is a version of Rhino for Mac, but it's not really ready yet. This version is just basically better at this point. So I'm using this to show you how the building works, which means I need to stay on the PC side for today. So I'm going to be getting into Autocad, and it's going to be the PC version. So for those of you who work in Windows, this will be kind of helpful for you. So right away, what I'm going to be doing is I need to start thinking about my section by drawing the plan. I need to draw the plan of my pavilion. And the reason why I'm using this model also is to sort of make the scenario similar to what you guys are doing in Studio, which is that you have a design for something, but maybe it's not measured drawings. It's certainly not in CAD, I would assume. You either have a model or you have some sketches, and so you have a thing and you want to convert it to orthographic drawings so that you can cut a section. And so I'm kind of pretending that my virtual model is the model on my desk, or the model that I've kind of sketched, and I need to work on that. So that's where I'm starting with this. So I've got my pavilion here, and I've got CAD opened up. I've got the template set up. I went ahead and I opened up the layers palette, and in fact, a lot of times this is how CAD starts off. I went ahead and said layer, and then you can actually dock it. You can actually move it around. I'm trying to pull it off. Yeah, so it starts off like something like this. If you grab the side of it or the top of it and you pull it to the side, it'll lock. If you right click some of these things, you can turn them off. I've kind of organized this so that it's just the names and the colors, and that makes it really easier for me to work with. I just prefer to have it here. You can definitely use the drop down up here if you want more drawing space, but I have a pretty big monitor, so I think this will work out well for me. So anyway, first thing I want to do, I actually have some like measurements that I made. You would probably measure with a ruler, or you'd probably try to estimate from the sketches you have. I'm using this just to kind of keep things moving pretty quickly. So first thing you want to do is, well, first thing you don't want to do is just start by like taking each measurement and then translating it into your drawing. You really want to think of the drawing itself, the process of drawing itself, as a hierarchy. We talk about this a lot. You're actually constructing the drawing. You're not just putting points in space or like lines in space. You're actually ordering it, and that gives your project order. We do this because drawings aren't just for making something accurate that looks like your design. It's a way of thinking about your design, thinking about the proportions, thinking about where things are like oriented to each other or the way that they relate to each other. And drawing can help you think about your project. So it's not just how you represent it, it's how you think about it, it's how you roll that into the next iteration of your design. So I want to talk about that as I even draw this project. So we know from your project, sorry, I keep bouncing back and forth here, that these are roughly, for most people, like a 20 by 20 cube. And we can go out a foot and we can go in a foot, right? Those are some of the characteristics of the brief. So that's kind of what I did when I designed this. I went ahead and went with that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a rectangle. And actually, I need to make sure, always check your units. Make sure they're architectural. We want to draw at scale. Okay, so rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to arbitrarily start it somewhere here. And then I want to use the dimensions of it. So D. Specify length, 20 feet. Use the little apostrophe for feet, 20 feet. And the width, 20 feet. And once you've got that, you just basically click and you've got your 20 foot. That's a 20 foot rectangle. Okay. So once I've got that, that's the basic thing. The other thing I'm going to do with this is go ahead and I'm going to explode it. So it's actually, right now the computer thinks of it as one object. I actually, in my design, decided to play with the thickness of the walls a bit. So these are foot thick walls, and this is a half a foot, just to give it some hierarchy, and just to kind of spice things up a little bit for the sake of this project. So in order to get at that though, so right now it's 4 things, and if I offset it, which is a very powerful command, so I could say 12 inches when I offset it. I could go in, or I can go out. If I do that, it automatically offsets the whole thing, and I don't really want that. I only want to offset some of it. So I need to explode it. Explode, just like it sounds, blows it up. It takes something that was a group and basically ungroups it. And so I'm going to go ahead and now I can use the offset command. And offset is already set up for 12 inches. It'll keep the last dimension that you used. So I could just go, and actually I could even just say O once I've got it, and I just click. And once, because that space, I already have the space in there, I can actually just press return, and then if I click, I can go. Oops. Actually, let me make sure. It might not have. Oh, because I canceled the command, it lost it. Okay, so it has a 12 inch. So now I can click, and I can go in or I can go out. I'm going to go in, and I can keep doing this for the 3 sides. Okay. You'll notice I lose there's kind of an overlap here, but I can fix that. And then the last one I want to do is offset 6 inches here, right? So I've got my rough dimensions for that. And then if I want to, I can go ahead and trim. So I can pick a couple things, and then just click the ones I want to trim. Another kind of hack that I like that works for 90-degree angles is to do a fillet. And fillet will usually, round a corner. Just do something, just so I can show you. It usually wants to do like this, which is nice for other things, but it's not what we want. But if you do a fillet, and it's F, with a radius R of 0, it only takes 2 clicks to fix a corner, right? And that's a little bit faster. So now I got the basic edge of my building. So that, a lot of times you want to kind of define your primary walls. Speaking of which, the other like wall that I have in this design is this partition wall, and the partition wall roughly falls on the center of the space. So I could go ahead and add that now if I want to. So go ahead and just make a line, and I've got midpoint snaps on. So I can go ahead and just add that line. And partitions are generally 4 inches to 6 inches deep, depends on how you frame them. In this case, it's just a 4-inch partition. And if you want a 4-inch partition, you actually want to offset that 2 inches to a side. We're dealing with center lines, and the center line is important because basically it means that whatever object you're creating, whether it's a partition or a window or a door, is on center. You don't typically go from edge to edge because you want things to fall on a grid. You want things to fall on guidelines, right? And there's a difference. Let me just show you the difference here. 4 inches offset. I think you understand there's a difference between that, right, which actually slightly favors like this side, and actually doing it on center. So I'm offsetting 2 inches on each side, and actually having it be centered, right? Now there may be reasons for hierarchy in the space, or for some kind of construction reason, why you would do that. But this is second year, and these are like perfect kinds of designs. So centering it is what I want to do. And that's why I wanted to actually offset it from the center. Okay. We did not offset these walls from the center because we're actually looking at a 20-foot envelope that we want to inset. Sometimes we would take a 20-foot and offset evenly to both sides, but we specifically did not do that. So we got that. The other piece that I want to do is I need to figure out like how far out from the wall it is. And it looks like it's 10 feet off from, so it's actually halfway across the space that way too. So I can draw a guideline, here, and actually I'm not going to go all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then if I do my fillet, actually, see, fillet doesn't always work because now I lose my line there. That's the way fillet works. So I actually do need to trim these. And once you get practice with trimming, that'll help. So you can see that the partition is not separated from the wall. The space, the wall, the thickness of it just kind of flows into it, right? There is not a line here. It's just space. Okay, the next thing we want to look at would be the openings, in which case would be the door here and the doorway, which is here. So it looks like I go 10 feet, so this is another halfway. So this line, this center line of this, which we drew, is going to fall here. And then I've offset this a foot so that it creates kind of a square, sort of a column on this corner. This is how I ordered this door. And then the other door is more of a standard 3-foot door, and it is actually 3 foot 10 inches from the wall. And that's actually because I think what I did was what I did was I went halfway from this center to this edge, to the inside edge, yes, and then I went halfway. So I could do that both ways. So let's actually derive it from halfway between this center line and this edge, and then put that door in. Because I think that's the way I ordered it. Okay, so 2 things. So the first one is going to be, and see, once you've got the space set up, you can start to do things like you don't really measure things. You use other objects to derive the placement of other objects. So I'm going to offset the one wall a foot, and that will create this line that I need, right? And then I could, offset this 9 feet, or I could offset this one 10 feet. Since I'm already here, I might as well offset that one 9 feet. So I'm just going to go ahead and offset 9 foot. Oop, 9 inches. I don't want to do that. 9 feet. Oop. All right, you can see that falls right on the center of that, which is exactly what I want. And then I can go ahead and trim those up. Nice. So now we're starting to see the space again. Okay, and then the other thing that I did, which I could actually I guess it's the center of this, or the midpoint of this, and this. Now, a trick that I do sometimes to find the midpoint of something, and I want the midpoint of this line to this line, is I'll draw a diagonal line across, and then wherever the midpoint of that falls is actually the center of between those 2 objects. Okay, that's not going to help me cut though, so I'm going to extend it. And extend just would take that line and it'll extend it to this line. So I'm going to select the boundary, which is this line, and then right click. Right click is essentially like pressing enter, and then I'm going to click on this line, and that just extends it, and then just press enter to stop the command. Okay, and then since I want a 3-foot doorway, I want to offset it 1.5 feet in either direction. And so again, I've let this 1 foot piece kind of win hierarchically, just like this side wins, and then I'm actually picking up this wall starting on the inside of the wall, and then on the inside of the partition. Let's finish this up by trimming. And that's not too bad. At this point, I would probably save my file, just because I've been doing a lot of work lately. So let's just call this my section plane. Okay, not too bad. So you got the major kind of pieces of it. Okay, now something to talk about actually. Now that we're kind of into this project, when you draw a plan, Now you'll notice that there are definitely, this is a wireframe from Rhino, so it's actually showing everything in kind of X-ray. It is not a plan drawing. You do not, you really, remember I talked about when you cut a plan, it's like cutting a section, across at the hip a lot of the times. It is not going to show the clear story. Right? That's actually not something that we're going to be able to show because that would interfere with some of the other things. But what we can show is we're showing the opening, we're showing the doorway. We could show, for example, so we're going to show the way that the space works. We might show the kind of cut that's in the wall here, just to get a sense that there is, in fact, a window. But we have to make some choices with this drawing. It's not really going to be possible to show everything at once. So what we want to start to read is the space. You can actually see I have like a reveal here, so I'm going to want to show that reveal, and I'm going to want to show some kind of piece of this. But I really can't show the clear story at the same time because it's going to interfere with it, and I really can't show this kind of window that sits above the doorway. That's going to interfere with the way that I represent the door. So we just have to make some choices. We can make another plan that's cut at a different level that might show those windows and things. We might even do that if it helps us make a section. Okay. But we have to be, I guess you have to be kind of careful about what we're showing. So, first things first, though, let's go ahead and make those doors. So again, we're thinking about the center line. So this one's this kind of pivot door, and what I did with it was I basically made it so that the pivot is about a quarter of the way into the door, as opposed to exactly in the middle, because I wanted it again to have some kind of hierarchy that this side is more important than like this side, and I just wanted it to have some asymmetry. So what I can do to figure that out, I can do a couple different things. The easiest thing to do, since I want quarters, is draw a line from halfway, the midpoint, to the end, and now I would have a snap that is halfway. Okay, so I'm going to make a circle there, which is going to be my pivot. And if this is a foot, then I want to do diameter D of 6 inches, and that will give me that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this line. Just press delete. Now I've got this piece, and I can offset it 3 inches in each direction. Okay, delete this, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this a rectangle. So I'm just tracing over this. Okay, now I have this rectangle, but I don't want to select it. So if I control click, it actually gives me the object under it, and then I can delete it. And if I control click here, I can delete that. And now I just have, I think I've got, whoops, I must have deleted it accidentally. Should have. Yeah, that's the piece I want. Excuse me. Yeah, so I can delete that. Even if you select it, you can pick the next one down by control clicking. I think I keep accidentally deleting it. Oh, in any case, there we go. Well, actually, for now, let's go ahead and just move it, and then we can get rid of those things. But suffice to say, if you need to select something, you can control click until you get the object you want, and then you can delete it. For some reason, I don't seem to be selecting it correctly, but we can talk about that later. So anyway, I'm going to pick the box I made. I made it a box because I don't want to treat it like 4 lines, and I want to rotate it. So I want it to be one thing to make it easier to rotate. And I'm rotating it to show that it's actually a pivoting wall, as opposed to just a partition or a solid wall. Okay, and I want to show, where that wall can rotate. So anyway, I've made this thing. I'm gonna go to my snaps here. I'm gonna make sure the center snap is turned on. You only want to turn on snaps you're gonna use. Otherwise, just snap to everything. So rotate. Center point is gonna be the center of the box. I'm gonna start here. Oops. Let's do it again here. Rotate. Oops. You can repeat a command if you right click, and then you can just go on to the menu and you can click rotate. Otherwise, you can press enter and it will replay the last command that you completed, which is really handy. Okay, center. I'm going to do a reference angle, so R, and I'm going to start here. It is not liking me. Hang on a second here. Rotate, base point. Okay. Well, actually, this is working, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off orthographic and turn on 45-degree tracking, and then it'll snap. Yeah. So I'm going to do a 45-degree rotation, and then since I did that, I can click on these and delete them. It's a little cumbersome. Sorry. So I've done that. In order to show the kind of swing of the door, I can draw some arcs. And I guess if I was really going to be true about this, I would probably draw it like this way, because this is when the door is open, and then I could show the swing going like this. Yeah, and in fact, I guess I'll just go ahead and do that. It's probably, door swings are important because they tell you like where you can't put things in the space, where someone's going to get hit. And in this case, the way that I drew it in here, looks really cool. But it's actually only open part way. I just like that angle. I thought it made its space more dynamic. If I wanted to, when I designed this thing, I could make it so that the door only opens this way. And so it only allows people, through on an angle. That's something that I could think about. Anyway, so I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and go to the old arc tool. One that I like quite a bit. So there's different kinds of arcs, and they work with different kinds of information you have. In this case, though, the start and direction is going to be pretty easy to work with because I have the start, which is the center line, and the end, which is this line, and if I just snap to a 45-degree angle, that's actually going to give me the right arc. So center line, edge, and we're going to, should actually, I've got polar on, that's why. 45-degree angle is going to give you the angle you need. And this is actually, that one's, let's see, start and, let's try to start and radius. Start, oops. I did this backwards, okay. You got to experiment with arcs a bit until you kind of figure out. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I just kind of drag that one there. Okay. So that kind of shows me, and then if I go in and make these dashed lines, it should kind of show where those edges are. Yeah. They experiment with different kinds of arcs to see which one works best for you. And then I guess the other thing would be I do have the start and the center and the end, and that might be easier. It depends what kind of information you have in the drawing. So start, center. Oh yeah, that's much nicer. All right, do that one. That's much better. I'm gonna do the same. Do that again. Start, center. Oh, so this one's backwards. So if you end up seeing it backwards, just do it in the opposite configuration. Oh, except for that one. That one isn't working the way that I want it to. Start, center, specify endpoint. Oh, hold control to switch direction. You gotta read the directions. Okay, if I hold control, I can do that. Okay. You learn something new every day. All right. The other thing is going to be the other door is going to be a standard kind of door. So you draw a midpoint to a midpoint. When you're drawing a door, you have to think about where it is in the wall. In this case, it's going to be centered, and then you want to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and offset the door. Doors are typically, it can be 2 to 3 inches across. I'm going to go ahead and make it 3 inches, so it's 1.5 inches in either direction. Delete this, and then I'm going to go ahead and make it a square again. And you want doors typically to swing out for safety's sake, because if people are getting out in the fire, you want them to swing out. You can swing in if it's definitely like an entry door, but in this case, I'm gonna have it swing out. In this case, I want people to kind of come in like this way, because I want this wall to be in the way, so I want to swing it out in that direction. You gotta be kind of thoughtful about this. Okay, so same thing. I'm just gonna rotate it, and I'm gonna center it on the. Actually, I'm gonna use the hinge here, and then I can just use the ortho snaps to open the door. And so by drawing it this way, you guarantee that it's gonna look right. And then the swing is the same thing. Let's just go ahead and do an arc with a start, center, end. So we do start, center, hold control, haha, there we go. And now you've got your openings. The other thing that our design has that we want to be looking at is it does have this roof that overhangs. And that is something that we can represent in the drawing pretty clearly. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a quick rectangle again, and I'm just going to offset this a foot, 1 foot. Okay, and then delete the remnant. And this represents the overhang of the roof. And this is something so we can tell, like if you're standing here, are you going to get sun or rain on you or something like that? So that's going to be really clear. The other piece that I have is I do have a little reveal that is right here, just to activate the edge of this a little bit. And it's just kind of fun. And in my drawing, looks like it's a 4-inch reveal. So I'm just going to offset this by 4 inches. Trim things up. So that gives me that. Okay, and then the other piece that I have is a little bit tricky, which is this this kind of piece in here. And what I would do is I would measure this from your drawings with a ruler, or measure it from your model, and just get the part that you cut. So like, let's just say that I move up from the ground maybe 5 or 6 feet, and I'm just going to say that this thing is like 3.5 feet across, and it's maybe 4 feet from the inside. I'm just totally like fudging it, but for the purpose of this drawing, you do want to show that opening because it is part of the space when you're walking through this way. The elevations in this section are going to talk about the clear stories, so that'll be in those other drawings. But this drawing is really spatial. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fudge this. So I'm just going to say offset. I guess I said 4 feet. And then the other thing is offset another, 3.5 feet. That looks about right. Okay. Let's trim it up. And it's glazed, which means it has glass in it, and I'm just going to put a window on the midpoint. And so you can really read that there's some space. Again, if you hide this for now, but so the spaces that you can move through the doors, move around this partition. You've got a little notch here. You've got this space here. So that's all pretty good. So at this point, if I finish the drawing, I would go ahead and start, adjusting the hierarchy of the drawing. I think these are swings. This overhead piece is also it's a red. The window itself is going to be a 2. Remember, walls in a plan are typically these purples. And these aren't like hard and fast rules, but I think that they're pretty. I think they are easy to read with our template. Fine. Okay. Let's see here. The other thing that I would do here is just go ahead and make this this particular one. I would actually make a hidden line, and you can't really read it that well. Let's go to the layout. And then we go to properties. Let's figure out a scale for this thing. I think it probably wants to be 1/4 inch, but yeah. So you can see, you really don't see the line type until you get into this view. And that's the only, oops. Let's go back. Quarter scale. You really don't want to zoom when you're in this. Oops. Shoot, I did it again. And down here. Now I'm really stuck. Oh, I can just zoom out. Z, all. There we go. Okay, now I get back to my layout here. I don't work in Windows that often, so. Okay, 1/4. Now if I just pan, double click. All right, good enough. Okay. And I can edit the drawing while I'm in here, so I can actually go into my tools here, and I can change things like the line type, scale. So I just want there. That's what I want. Okay. Just be careful. Yep. Okay. So when I go back to my drawing, you can't really read the scale here, but it doesn't matter because it's actually the scale that it plots at that matters. So again, just to show, when I go into the layout, I can change the line type, and then I can change the line type scale, and that's going to help this thing read a little bit better. Okay. Okay, and then let's see the other piece that I want. So for this drawing, I do have these partitions. This is you may, yeah, I would maybe go ahead and represent this as a 1, or possibly as one of the grays, given that it is just kind of this internal thing. This just tells us where the center line of this is. It's not really super important. I have made my window, this lower hierarchy. I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think I want to make my doors maybe green, just so that they step down, quite a bit. The only way to really know this is to plot it. One thing I want to point out too is that you want to make sure that your higher hierarchy lines win. So to do that, this means like the red shouldn't be on top of the green, because that's actually how it's going to print. So I want to change the draw order to bring the green up in front, and bring these purples up in front. And this is something that you really have to do after you print because you won't know. I have a sense of it, but I would venture to say that most of you haven't really developed that yet because you're still new to this. But really want to sort the drawing out so that, again, anything that is a darker line gets brought to the front. Let's do that there. Good. Let's give it a quick plot just to see what we have here. Okay, we've got the line style table, and in PC, you know, when you're working on a PC instead of a Mac, you have to go with the AutoCAD PDF. Not too bad. I know this is the Windows viewer, so I'm not sure how much I can trust it. Definitely spatial, but this seems to be reading pretty heavy to me. And this doesn't seem to be reading much darker than that. So I'm going to go ahead and mess with it some more. Let's see here. I do think I want to knock this one down. I don't quite trust this. I think this this wants to be heavier. This is a piece of a wall. This does not want to be very heavy. And if I don't, yeah, I think this would actually be okay if I printed it for real. The only way to know that would be to actually print. Yeah. So yeah, I really don't like this Windows viewer. Okay. I'll install Acrobat Reader before the next video. So that is just generally how to like craft a plan, you know, so that you're thinking about the proportions, you're making efficient use of the tools, and then you're thinking about the hierarchy of the drawing. But this would set us up pretty well for the next drawing. If you wanted to, you could actually make a copy of this and then actually make a plan